three-time Formula 3 team in history. Mick Schumacher, a lot of fans here in Hungary supporting Mick this weekend. He's had 2-point scoring finishes, 2 ninth place finishes, and there he is, focusing very much on the job ahead in his first season in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. Can he get another point scoring finish in this race? Well, maybe, but he's got a bit of work to do from 13th on the grid. He's just ahead of Ralph Aron, who's going to be lining up 14th on the grid. Ralphie's gone from Prema Power Team to High-Tech GP. He's got Marco Asmo, the 2007 British F3 champion, more recently racing GTs, did a bit of Formula 1 testing in his time as well. Another Estonian, and he's been helping him for the last couple of years as his driver coach. Funnily enough, the year that Marco won the British Formula 3 Championship 10 years ago, second in that championship was Maro Engel, who's also here this weekend racing in the DTM, which has just come off track, ready to make way for this, the last race of the day. There you can see Max Gunter keeping the visor open as long as he can, because it's a much hotter day today than it has been for the rest of the weekend so far. We're up to about 27 degrees about an hour ago. It might be ever so slightly cooler now, but the track temperature 38, 39 degrees, and lots of them, I'm told, have already used all of their new tyres because they had to get through 2 sets to make sure they got a good lap in that qualifying session, that dry qualifying session. And even Callum Ilot's saying to me after the race, no, I didn't have totally new tyres for that race. I think we all used our sets up now. Everybody has had 3 sets to use for 2 qualifying sessions and 3 races. So the cars head off onto their formation lap here in the commentary box, just overlooking the pits and overlooking the grandstands, which have been pretty packed this weekend. Big queues to get across the bridge from one side of the circuit to the other here. And lots of very enthusiastic fans, and during the gap between race 2 and race 3, there was a huge amount of them for about half an hour or so that came to the F3 autograph session to get posters and programmes signed from these stars of the future. There's the starting grid on track then. Joel Eriksson, Callum Ilott, Lando Norris the top 3. Guan Yu will start 4th. David Beckman 5th. Max Gunter in 6th. Jake Hughes 7th. Joey Mawson 8th. Nikita Matsipan is going to be 9th on the grid. Jan Daravala has been very impressive and also taken a rookie win this weekend, is in 10th. He's also been on the podium this weekend. Marino Sato is in 11th. Ferdinand Habsburg, Mick Schumacher 12th and 13th. Ralph Aron, Pedro Piquet 14th and 15th on the grid. And then it's Harrison Newey, Makino and Andres rounding out the 18 cars that will start the race. Chris Hartley here then, trackside, ready for the cars to come round for a 33-minute plus 1 lap race. And alongside me for the 3rd and final race of the weekend, it's Leo Gorman.
And Chris, yeah, important thing for this weekend, of course, Maxi Gunther, who's been leading, who's now leading the championship, and you got Lando Norris, who's 3rd on the grid but 4th in the championship. Both of them had tricky starts today. Norris actually partially stalled and saw him drop right down to the rear of the field. Maxi initially got a good start, but was actually balked slightly as drivers around him avoided Norris and couldn't really make a way through the field. Meanwhile, Ericsson and Ilott got ahead. Ilott won the race. Ericsson finished 2nd, and suddenly the face of the championship is changing again. Ericsson and Ilott are now in play, so we have 4 drivers who in the top 6 positions of this grid so far who are gunning for this race.
Well, it's 27 points between the top 4 in the championship. It's 25 for a win, so it could easily come down to a real close fight. This could be the closest championship we've had in F3. Max Gunter on 170 points leads the championship. Joel Eriksson 2nd on 158. Callum Ilott's 3rd now on 144 after his win, and Lando Norris on 143 in 4th place, with Daravala 5th, and Hughes up to 6th place now. He's 10th at the start of the weekend. Let's see how Jake gets on in this race. But Joel Eriksson has won in every event so far this season. He's picked up a win. Can he carry on that form? He is in prime position, on pole position for the race. Callum Ilott, though, will be having an eye to making a move early on in this race to see if he can dispose of him. Let's see how they get on as the lights come on. They go out, the race gets underway. Lando Norris makes a much, much better start this time. It's not perfect, but it's better, and he's certainly not going to be at the back of the field. Everybody cleanly off the line, and it's Joel Eriksson who's going to get there first. Guan Yu is trying to be 2nd and also trying to fend off Lando Norris. Norris. He's going to be third. Out wide goes Callum Ilott. I think it's going to be Guan Yu possibly in third place. Yes, he is. Lando Norris couldn't fend off the Chinese driver. Had half a mind on second. Lando trying to come back around the outside of him at turn 2 as well. It's Ericsson from Ilott. Third is Guan Yu. Fourth place then is Lando Norris. That's much, much better for him. And they come downhill now. 1 or 2 still skidding out wide as they exit turn 3 up towards turn 4. Flat out in 6th gear at the top of the hill. And then down to 4th for turn 5 through the sequence of corners. In sector 2, they will now march through. The 33 motorpark car and Marino Sato there trying to make a move and get himself a bit higher up the grid. There's lots of jostling and weaving going on here. There's Pedro Piquet, number 5, and Harrison Newey, the orange and black Van Amersfoort car, his teammate, number 17, trying to work their way up from lowly grid positions here. Harrison had a good start to the weekend, got off the line really well, but had a good first lap to be in 6th place in the first race of the weekend yesterday, but today hasn't been quite so successful for him. So, a very good, clean start there. Lando Norris has lost a place, but comparative to some of his other starts this year, that's been a pretty good one.
Yeah, but that's 3 races this weekend where Lando Norris has actually dropped positions off the grid. He's fallen down to 4th place, now behind Guan Yu. As you said, Ericsson, very good start. It looked for a moment as if Ilott might get the jump on him, but Ericsson got a good second part of his start and just edged ahead as the rest behind him kind of fanned out coming into turn 1. Ericsson leads after the first lap of this race by 9/10 of a second, with Yu only 7/10 behind, and Norris 2.1 behind the leading man Ericsson coming into the first corner.
That was Mawson defending from Duravala, the 8th and 9th place cars, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all holding station. There is a replay coming out of turn 14 of Max Gunter, the championship leader, running wide, but Jake Hughes wasn't able to quite punish him when they got down to turn 1. So Gunter stays 6th, Hughes stays 7th, Mawson and Deruvala in 8th and 9th were nose to tail as well. There is Deruvala, number 27. And again, he's getting close to the tail of Joey Mawson here, the Australian, fending off for the time being the young Indian driver. And then just in the points in 10th place is Matsipan as well. And just outside the points in 11th place, Schumacher's made up a couple of places already. So into the chicane they come, right through turn 6, straight into the left at turn 7, 3rd gear, 4th gear through turn 8 and 9. And then they start to build up speed. Once they get to turn 11, it's flat out in 5th gear onto the back straight. Fastest first sector for Callum Ilott with a 35.8 is 0.9 of a second now behind the race leader. There is Jake Hughes, number 34, bearing down upon the championship leader, and it's very tight here. We've seen this for several seasons now. There are just hundredths of a second between some of these drivers, some of these front-runners drivers in the FIA European Formula 3 Championship. It means we've got lots of different winners. It means qualifying is super important, especially at the Hungaroring, where it is not quite so easy to overtake as it is around other circuits. Joey Mawson just fighting the wheel on the way through turn 14, sliding a little bit, and that might cost him a bit of speed coming onto the straight.
And one of the things we noticed in the race from this morning was that the Prima Power Team boys really showing a decent pace on the first sector of the lap, whereas maybe losing a little bit in the middle sector. They're just gaining a little bit of advantage as they come down to turn 1, but it's not enough to overhaul Ericsson at this stage. It'll be interesting now because we're getting to the time of day. It's still very muggy outside. It's still quite hot. 26, 27 degrees Celsius. I think the track temperature is still in around 34 or 33 degrees Celsius. So not as hot as it was earlier on, but these tyres have already done laps. They've already done sessions in qualifying and in one of the practice sessions. So they could make for a very tense half hour or so in this race.
So can Callum Ilott start to close the gap back up later on in the race, perhaps, to Joel Eriksson? There is Deruvala, number 27. He is in 9th place currently, but he's right behind Joey Mawson there in the number 96 Van Amersfoort car, the ex-F4 racer, keeping him at bay. Joey's struggled a couple of times this weekend with the car towards the end of the race, but has been able to fend off others and keep his position. At the moment, he looks to be perhaps more concerned with keeping Deruvala behind him than perhaps trying to close the gap to Jake Hughes. But Joey, who's got some experience actually of racing out in India in the MRF Challenge, finished second in that championship over the winter behind Harrison Newey. In fact, they drew, and it was only on tie-back of most wins that Harrison got the title away from Joey.
And you can really see Joey's actually forcing the wheel around some of the corners. It's not a direct action, as it were. He's having to chop at the wheel several times to get his Van Amersfoort car to turn in. Really, you got Deruvala, who's always just closer there. He's like 0.4 of a second, and Mawson's not getting great traction out of some of the corners, but Deruvla is also not close enough to actually make the move count. And we'll just see here, Lando just sluggish away. It actually just seemed almost as if Lando was just slow in general away. It wasn't as if earlier on he stalled slightly off the first stop. That was actually just as if he was a half a second after everyone else.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, undoubtedly it's going to be playing on his mind, isn't it, after the bad start that he had to the second race of the weekend earlier on today. And, he did a pretty decent job there, and I'd say quite a bit of pressure. And equally, I'd say Lando didn't make the very best of starts, but he was okay. But Guan Yu Zhu did make a very good start as well, which kind of made it look slightly less competent than it was. So Guan making a really good start. There he is in the number 8 car. Lando Norris in 4th, pulling away now from David Beckman, who's held station in 5th place.
I think one of the issues also for Lando is he's had so many bad starts so far this year. It's the kind of thing, it plays on your mind until you actually nail it week in, week out, which a lot of the other drivers are doing. Lando, he just seems to be always losing something on those starts.
They can be tricky to get off the line, these cars, because he's got lots of experience of starting single-seater cars, but not Formula 3, not these type of cars. So it can be tricky. Lots of other drivers have struggled with it in the past. He will overcome it. Just taking the tear off there out to clear the visor was number 8 Guan Yu Zhu, and Guan Yu Zhu, the Chinese driver, into turn 1, still ahead of Lando Norris, who is the leading rookie in this race in 4th place. Second best rookie is Joey Mawson in 8th, and Jan Daruvla in 9th place, the next best rookie. Matsipan has been close to the point so far this weekend, but he's still hanging on by 0.6 of a second to 10th place, but there's nothing between anybody here. You go all the way down the list on the timing screen, and everybody's only 0.6, 0.7 of a second either in front of the car that's chasing them or behind the car that they're trying to catch. So very, very tight out there, and we've still got all 18 cars running. The gap from first to second is 1.3 seconds, and both of the top two in the mid 136s, about half a tenth quicker on that. That was Callum Ilott. And you see them using the curb, quite aggressive on the curb as they go through the second part of it, out through turn 7 to get on the gas and get a good run into turn 8.
And Ericsson's holding a very nice pace at the moment. He's in the mid-36. He's got a 1.3 second lead over Callum Ilott. So he's not stressing too much at the moment. Ilott's not close enough to pose a threat to overtake Ericsson at this stage. But at the same time, Ericsson's not having to try and overtake someone out in front. So he's actually keeping his car in good condition. He's keeping his tyres in good condition, not overly stressing them. And that is the kind of form, it's the kind of pace, it's the kind of consistency that will do him in great stead come towards the latter stages of this race when the tyres begin to hit their kind of the older age.
Exactly right. So Joel Eriksson leading the way currently, 1.1 seconds. The gap comes down a little bit more though. But Callum Ilott won the race earlier on by nearly 9 seconds. So much was his advantage. There's Mick Schumacher, who is fending off Ferdinand Habsburg, who's come up to 12th place. They're both just outside the points. So I've had 3 different drivers on the podium each time this weekend. Race 1 on Saturday, Max Gunter, Jake Hughes and Jan Daruvla were the top 3. And then we had a different top 3 in race 2, Callum Ilott, Joel Eriksson and then Guan Yu Zhu, as I say, with this first podium of the season. This would be then Joel Eriksson's first visit to the podium this weekend. Callum has had a very, very solid point-scoring weekend to win. This would be second place if he stays there, and he picked up a 5th place in the race at the start of the weekend. And that's where they are at the moment in terms of the top 3. You've got the top 4 in the 136s, but Beckman in 5th, Gunter in 6th, Hughes in 7th are in the low 137s and falling away now from that lead quartet.
And I would say partially that is to do with Beckman. Beckman's got a pace which is in the early 137s, and I don't think Gunther, from 6th downwards, they're not able to get close enough to really fashion a move on David Beckman in 5th place. But so they're also kind of being held at that pace as well, and that's really Beckman just creating a bit of a train. There's nothing wrong with that. He's doing a very good job, very, very competent job in 5th place. It'll be one of his better finishes in Formula 3 if he's able to complete this run. We still have 23 minutes plus 1 lap still to go, but he's doing very well so far. He's lost sight maybe of Norris to a degree. That's 2.3 seconds ahead, but as Gunther only 1.1 behind, but still it's like Ilott and Ericsson up front. Gunther's not close enough to actually make a move on Beckman. It's just kind of settled into an almost metronomic pace at this moment.
Yeah, it's still good stuff this, though, from Beckman with very limited time. He only had 2 hours in the car midweek at Oschersleben, just a shakedown, really. And wasn't allowed to come and do the official test here. Lots of them have been here to test. Even the rookies have had some time around this circuit. Of course, it's their first race weekend here for drivers like Lando Norris and Joey Mawson, these rookie drivers. There, then your race leader, Joel Eriksson, who's had 3 race wins so far this season. 1 at Silverstone, 1 at Monza and 1 at Po. Second place finish at Silverstone as well. Can he get his 5th podium finish? There is Lando Norris, member of the McLaren Honda Young Driver Programme as well. Lots of these drivers being kept an eye on by the Formula One teams. You've got Guan Yu Zhu, who is a Ferrari Driver Academy member. Ferrari developing the talent of the young Chinese driver there in the number 8 car. You've got McLaren Honda developing and working with Lando Norris. You have BMW as well, who of course have a strong presence in DTM German touring cars, who are having quite a lot of young drivers on their books, including the race leader Joel Eriksson, McLaren Autosport Award winner. Lando Norris then in 4th place. And there you can see how much the top 4 are now beginning to pull away from Beckman in 5th place, and then a long train of cars behind him, including Max Gunter. And Max, who won yesterday's race convincingly. It's not that Max has got any slower this weekend, it's just that they're all on such a similar pace that even if you were able to win a race by 5 seconds yesterday, which was what Max Gunter did, he can only finish where he starts in this one in 6th place. I'm sure if you put Max on the front of the grid, he'd be holding his own, but there's so little between them that, you know, if you can't qualify well, then just try and pick up a place or 2 and score decent points.
Let's not forget Friday practice running, Chris, when it was dry. Maxi was really in the kind of 5th, 6th, 7th position. For whatever reason, they've not been able to nail his setup on the dry conditions. So when they did have the qualifying, it was a wet, dry qualifying for race 1, and he was able to nail pole position, and then in the race actually go off to win the race with ease. But now he's in a situation where they had dry qualifying yesterday evening, and the best they could manage for a qualifying setup was a pair of 6th places. And unfortunately, as you just said, it's a situation. This circuit is very, very difficult to overtake on. And he's finding that with Beckman now. He's only 9/10 of a second behind, but you might as well be 19 seconds behind sometimes in that kind of instance. So this is interesting for Gunther, because he has Jake Hughes 8/10 behind him, so he doesn't want to drop back too far. But also at the same time, you occasionally just want to give yourself a rest. If you're 9/10 of a second behind, sit back for a second, give a breather, think about it, then charge again and see if you can actually take Beckman that way.
And try and save the tyres as well. Certainly when it wasn't as hot as this in the qualifying session yesterday that set the grid for this one, the drivers were doing 1 quick lap, then backing off and letting the tyres cool down. So Lando Norris in 4th place is still leading the rookie championship. The gap's come down after the race where he finished out of the points earlier on today. He's on 217 points. That still puts him 20 points clear of Jehan Daruvala. Mick Schumacher 3rd in the rookie standings. Joey Mawson up to 4th place after his earlier win. Prema Power Team now with 351 points and 90 points clear of Motor Park for the Teams Championship, with Carlin running in 3rd place. So Van Amersfoort versus Carlin at the moment, with Joey Mawson still his mirrors full of Jehan Daruvala. And Jehan has been following him around for quite some time now. It was the same story in race 2 as well. I should think Jehan is absolutely fed up at the sight of that orange rear wing, because he followed Joey Mawson pretty much all the way around race 2 as well, when they went on to finish 7th and 8th, and they were 1st and 2nd in the rookie category. So Jehan having a very, very strong weekend here, but probably slightly frustrated that he just can't find a way past the Australian. But in credit to Joey, he's not left him any opportunities, has he? He's kept the car in the right place. He hasn't been making any mistakes, and he's quick enough to be able to keep the Indian driver just behind him. As we look at Nikita Matipan there, the Russian driver who came up with some Force India backing into the Formula 3 Championship last year, having his 2nd season now with the high-tech GP team.
And Lando Norris, 4th place after losing the spot to Guan Yu Zhu at the start. Still 6/10 of a second behind the Chinese, the Prema Power Team driver, not able to make headwind. He's able to close up ever so slightly, 1/10 of a second at a time. And then as we come into turn 1,
duel going on here, isn't it? That was Marino Sarto having a little look at Pedro Piquet's number 5 car, but also notably on his mirrors was Harrison Newey. So he's had a little look down the inside of Piquet, but also realised that if he couldn't pull off the move, he could easily lose his own position to Harrison Newey there in the number 17 car. Harrison, who fended off for quite a long time Lando Norris, who was trying to come back into the points but couldn't do so after his bad start in race 2, and eventually lost out to him right at the end of the race.
And that's something that would be a little bit disappointing, I suppose, for the Van Amersfoort guys as well, because you've got Joey Mawson out there in eighth place at the moment. He's going to pick up some points, and they want, you know, Pedro Piquet and Harry Newey to be there as well, but unfortunately if they're down in 15th and 16th positions, they cannot pull in the points to battle in the teams championship. And it's a teams championship where you might look at junior formula and go, well, what difference does team championship make? Well, actually nowadays it does actually make a difference, because there's actually prize funds at the end of each year. It's on a sliding scale. I think it's a share of €200,000 or something along those lines. So the higher up in the final order the team is, the more of a slice of the pie they actually get. So it's kind of is key for the teams to have both of their scoring drivers actually in the points at the end of a race. And 8th, 15th and 16th isn't really what Van Amersfoort are looking for at this stage.
No, it has been a circuit. It's never quite been their best circuit. So I remember, I think I mentioned this earlier in the weekend, speaking to Fritz Van Amersfoort here last year, and he said it's just one of those circuits where we can never quite get it absolutely right. The car never quite seems to work. Although Joe Mawson did a really good job, didn't he, in the first race on Friday, and got a good top 6 finish. But they're thereabouts as always. It was 42 years now that team has been running, so they know their onions. Busy racing also in Formula 4 Championship racing, Van Amersfoort. And of course, they're the team that ran Max Verstappen to 3rd place in the Championship in his one and only year in Formula 3 before he got snapped up by Red Bull to go and race in Formula 1.
Now, it looks as if Guan Yu Zhu's made a small mistake in sector 1. He dropped half a second to Lando Norris, who's now on his tail. As we go through the twisty middle section, Zhu is able to reaffirm his position and just add a couple of tenths to the gap to Lando Norris. But it really comes down to the final corner, Chris. If you can actually latch the final 2 corners together, get a very, very good traction coming at the turn 14 bend, that gives you an extra shot coming down the long start-finish straight, which will kind of see you almost climb upon someone into turn 1 and as it bends into turn 2. That's the best option really for an overtake in this race as we see them come through the final corner on screen now. That was just Mazepin, Schumacher and Habsburg and Aaron coming through. So you get a good traction out of this corner. It can actually really launch you onto the rear wing of the guy in front. And it's absolutely pivotal because you get top speeds of around 210 to 215 kilometers an hour coming down at the end of this start-finish straight. And if you get a bad traction out of the final corner, that difference could be 10 kilometers an hour. And that's what could see you overtaken if you get it badly wrong.
And turn 1, where you'd add a second gear, is your one real big chance to overtake. Now, you mentioned the prize fund, which has been extended this year for the championship. They really are doing a lot to try and keep the careers of these young drivers going, to help them develop their professional careers. So for 2017, there's €500,000 worth of prize money that have been pumped in by the FIA in Formula 3 into the championship. It's €100,000 given to the title winner to help them move into another FIA championship. It has to be another FIA championship, but that is a huge amount of money to contribute towards your next season in racing once you move out of Formula 3. As you say, teams, there's €200,000 which gets divided up amongst the teams based on their performance during the course of the season on a scale. And there's also 200,000 awarded to the rookies. That was introduced last year and has been carried on in 2017. So the rookie champion this year will get €100,000. That's going to help whoever wins that. And it's Lando Norris leading the rookie standings at the moment. And if you finish 2nd and 3rd in the rookies, you get €50,000 each. So that really does help these drivers who need the budget, they need sponsorship, they need support to carry on their careers beyond Formula 3. It really does help them to keep their careers developing, all these young drivers. Of course, many of them with an eye towards competing one day in Formula 1, or at least having professional careers.
And I think one of the key things about the funding program with the FIA is it is something that looks towards other FIA championships. So if, for example, Joel Eriksson or Callum Eilert want to take their budget into another FIA championship, they're going to be looking at, say, something like Formula 2, but I believe it also goes to WEC, for example, things like that. So there are lots of options for drivers to actually take that funding to the next level, as it were, in the FIA structure, and that's a wonderful aspect of the championship as it currently stands. And congratulations to both the FIA and ITR, the promoter of the European Formula 3 Championship, for actually coming up with such a strategy.
Absolutely. Max Gunter is another of these drivers that's backed by a manufacturer, Mercedes, and he's been involved with as a DTM reserve driver. Mercedes and DTM on the programme this weekend. This is nice, really nice shot that we've seen a couple of times through the trees at the back of the circuit. Super slow-mo of Joel Eriksson. This is through turn 6 and 7, the chicane, as Callum Eilert attacks the curves, and you can see there the suspension on these cars working and the tyres absorbing the pressure as the car lands back down on the Hankook tyres. Harrison Newey has dropped down to last place, and he's struggling for lap time. Lee has just noted on the screen. So 1 minute 40.2 last time around. He's 2 or 3 seconds off the pace. So
I wonder if he's had an incident, because that's actually about 4 or 5 seconds he would have dropped over the course of 2 laps. I think his pace is actually still fundamentally there. So I wonder maybe if he's gone up somewhere and probably regained the circuit, but actually lost a whole chunk of time in the meantime as well.
See what his next lap time is like. He's definitely struggling at the moment for pace, isn't he? Unlike Joel Eriksson, who's 2.3 seconds clear now, just chipping away, edging away bit by bit from Callum Eilert. 137.260. That said, Eilert did a 137.251, so he closed the gap by 9 thousandths of a second. And that's how close it is. 137.260 for Eriksson, 136.251 for Eilert, 137.261 for Zhu, and 137.202 for Norris. So basically the top 4, bar a couple of centimetres, are all lapping in exactly the same lap time around here.
And the only other driver faster than that at the moment is Daruvula in 9th place, 1 minute 37.0, as he continues his battle with Joey Mawson. I think he did what I mentioned earlier on. He actually dropped back a small bit for a couple of laps, regained his drive for taking Mawson, is now getting back on it to try and go for 8th place in this race. Gap is half a second at the moment.
There is Ferdinand Habsburg in the Carlin machine, the 62 car, who's a bit like Daruvula, has been shadowing Mawson from the start of the race. Not quite as close, these two, but he's certainly been following Mick Schumacher for quite some time now. There is Mick, who was the runner-up in the German Formula 4 Championship last year to Joey Mawson, who won that title before coming into F3. Also the runner-up in the Italian F4 Championship, familiar to the Prema team, who, like Van Amersfoort, compete in the Junior Formula 4 Championship as well. There is the driver, Mick Schumacher, currently running in 11th place, trying on one hand to catch Mazepin and get some points. There's the Mick Schumacher fan club, who are very much down and making noise with the hooters at the autograph session. Got a big following developing here, and has been surrounded. Every time he pops out into the paddock, people are grabbing selfies of him, asking him to sign things. As you can imagine, with the Schumacher name ultra famous, and Mick Schumacher building his own reputation now. He's one of the best supported drivers out there in the Formula 3 Championship. And
one of the odd little things I always found with in the years I've been covering Formula 3 is, if you go back to Rafael Marcello a few years ago, when he had a fan club that would following him around that season as well, and it was the same for Max Verstappen and
Antonio Fuoco was another one, wasn't he? The Fuoco fan club were the noisiest lot around.
And I do remember, especially with Fuoco, when we went to, I think it was Imola that year, we'd go down to the paddock and there was a throng of just red around the...
He used to take massive flags to Silverstone. They used to have blankets at the end because it was quite cold normally at Silverstone. But yeah, really big support.
And we are kind of seeing that with Schumacher this year as well. And you know, the name is part of that, but there are a lot of fans out there who genuinely want to see him do well and see if he has what it takes to go through the higher ranks of motorsport.
Well, I think he's with the right team, that's for sure, isn't it? Prema, who, you know, their success is unrivaled in the FIA European F3 Championship, the Italian squad run by René Rossin at race weekends. They're then this train of cars with 8.5 minutes to go over the line. Beckman, number 55, in 5th. Gunter in 6th place. The two Germans being chased by the British driver Jake Hughes in car 34. And Joey Mawson, the Australian, not far behind either, with the Indian driver Daruvala and the Russian driver Matsipan in 10th place. I mentioned the nationalities because it shows just what an international championship this is. Yes, it's the F3 European Championship. All the circuits are in Europe, but you have drivers over the last few years that have come to race here from Australasia, from North and South America, from all over the world, and from Asia, of course, as well. And this is the place to come if you want to make a name for yourself. And as we mentioned earlier on, in race 2, this is fast becoming a championship that springboards you into Formula 1. A lot of drivers making their way either directly from F3 or a couple of years after they've been in F3, you find them popping up in Formula 1. Esteban Ocon is one of them. Lance Stroll, the reigning champion, is another, racing with Williams this year. Antonio Giovinazzi, to name but a few, and there are others like Charles Leclerc who are racing in F2 are going to be coming up, no doubt, in the future as well.
And then, of course, there's other categories as well. We've seen so many drivers, the likes of Tom Blomqvist, go straight into DTM with BMW. Felix Rosenqvist, who's actually competing in every single championship known to man across the world, in any country.
Got for hire, isn't he, Felix? Yeah. What are you doing this weekend, Felix? Oh, I don't know. What have you got something for me to race? Yeah. What is it? Don't care. I'll come and race it.
I used to feel a little bit sorry sometimes for his press guy, Matthias. You'd ask him what is he doing next weekend, and you kind of go, he's got something lined up. Yeah.
I'm not having the weekend off, basically, Matthias. Yeah, he's a busy boy, he's Matthias at the moment. Right, so yeah, a real platform for drivers, this FIA Formula 3 European Championship, and a very, very high standard in the field this year. They're all drivers that are used to winning races and championships in other categories before they come to F3, which is why it's oh so close out there. Great view there down the hill from turn 4. As we see the top 4 run through. They got 2.1 seconds. Now, 137.1 for Ericsson last time around, a 136.999. Fastest man on the track then is Callum Ilott in second place. It's only by 1.5 tenths of a second, but 1.5 tenths of a second in Formula 3 racing is actually quite a bit. So he is trying to close the gap to Ericsson. He's done it on the odd lap. He needs to try and do it for 3-4 laps on the spin to put the Swede under pressure. Guanyu 137.3 just dropping back a bit into the clutches of Lando Norris, is actually only half a second behind him at this stage of the race, with just under 6 minutes to go, plus a lap at the end of it. Starting to tighten up at the head of the field, and this might be boiling down to what Lee was talking about. Everybody, we think, is on tyres that have already done at least one race or one session, and it's hotter than it has been pretty much all weekend. And so have they been able to manage the tyres? Will the tyres start to drop off? Certainly some of them out there are starting to lose a bit of pace now. What does Ericsson do? 137.1 again, yes, and a 136.88 for Callum Ilott. He's got the gap down to less than 2 seconds.
Ilott's beginning to turn it on. I think he senses an opportunity now as we go into the final 5 minutes plus 1 lap. That's 17 laps in the bag. Now, this will be very, very, very interesting for Callum Ilott as he charges back towards his Swedish rival. Of course, if this result stays as it is, I believe Ericsson would take the lead in the championship by a single point, and Ilott now a championship contender once again. He's also looking at the grand scheme of things in the championship, as we see some black and white flag notices come up on the screen for track limits.
Yes, which an issue all weekend long, hasn't it?
That's for Mazepin, for Beckman, for Andres, for Newey. And it's also for Mawson and for Habsburg. So, yeah, only 1/3 of the field.
So Gunter's got 6th place at the moment. That give him 8 points. That give him 178 points. Joel Eriksson, he's on for the full 25. That would give him 183. 5 points the difference. And you're right, Eriksson would move back into the championship lead if, and it's still an if, it stays like this. David Beckman has got to do his part in all of this to keep Max Gunter behind him. Max, though, isn't yet quite close enough to attack. Jalen Daruvala almost might have a rope between the back of Joey Mawson's Van Amersfoort car and the front wing of the Carlin car. It's just been like he's towing him around for the last day, really, hasn't it? And still cannot find a way past.
And Beckman, he's 6 seconds off the leading quartet, but he has a slide there for Jake Hughes as he came through the final corner. That's not going to be healthy for his pace coming down the start-finish straight. But Beckman, 6.1 as they cross the start-finish line. He's behind Norris. But he's keeping these guys behind legitimately. It's not like they're pushing to actually rush past him in any way, shape or form. They're getting to half a second and not able to actually make a move beyond that. So he's doing a very, very good job, and a good end to his first weekend in Motor Park. And I think
very good.
Really, he's only just joined the team, and he had, as you said, he had that what effectively was a shakedown and then straight into his first weekend. I think it probably won't be until we get to Hungaroring in a couple of weeks' time when he's actually properly embedded in the team. That's when we may actually start to see him deliver some results.
And just to repeat, David hasn't raced here before either, because this was one of the rounds he missed last year at the start of the season. So it's his first time here, first time in the team. I think he's done a very solid job. After this, he's been everywhere before, and life starts to get, in theory, a bit easier. By the way, Joel Eriksson was teasing us because he's just done a 136.8, and yes, he lost a few tenths over the previous couple of laps. He just gained back 7/10 of a second, so the gap's gone back out to 2.6 seconds. I think that is Joel Eriksson managing the advantage. This is still the battle for third place, pretty tight though, between Guan Yu Zhu and the number 8 Prema car and the number 31 of Lando Norris. Now Lando's had a tricky weekend so far, as we see some super slow-mos of Joel Eriksson, but he's been Mr. Consistent this season so far, because in the 9 races leading up to this weekend, he'd only been off the podium twice. He's been 7 podiums, 2 wins, 4 second place finishes and a 3rd for Lando Norris. He's 4th at the moment. What can he do about Guan Yu Zhu? 0.6 of a second behind him, 2 minutes plus a lap to go.
And the gap between Eriksson and Eilert extends out to 3 seconds. I'm actually beginning to think, while Eriksson did go much quicker than Eilert in the previous lap, I think Eilert actually had a bit of a mistake in one of the sectors and actually dropped half a second overall. He's lost another 4/10 on that lap, and I think possibly with just 1 minute and 3/4 plus 1 lap to go, I think Eilert has probably registered that this is going to be a really good, solid 18 points. Do you know what? A very, very good haul for the weekend. And
well, overall, he's scored more points than anybody across the 3 races, hasn't he? Which is what it's all about.
But a note for Joel Eriksson as well, as we mentioned earlier on, he had a very difficult race 1 because he had a poor qualifying session on Friday evening, so he only actually ended up getting 1 point in race 1. But he's come back in race 2 and actually nailed 18 points with a 2nd place finish there, and if he bags another 25 for the win, that's actually still a reasonably healthy return on the weekend, on a weekend when Gunther has probably not made the maximum of race 2 and 3 that he probably should have, with 2 6th places, and also Lando Norris has not really scored anywhere near as much as he probably should have. Also Eilert is probably bringing himself back into the championship.
Definitely, yeah.
So it's not as if Eilert has really taken charge. He's bringing himself back into the championship. So now we have a 4-way battle for the rest of this race, the rest of this championship.
That's right. Another one that's really banked a load of points this weekend is Guan Yu Zhu, isn't he? He's about to pick up his 2nd podium of the day, to add to the strong point scoring finish he picked up yesterday. He's had 3 solid races, and Guan's season up and running now here at the Hungaroring. That's going to, at the moment, probably, JQ's is 1 point in front of him. So, yeah, it's going to move well up into the top 6. In fact, he'll probably move ahead of de Rouvler as well. I think he might move up to 5th place in the championship off the top of my head if it stays like this. So, a very solid weekend for Guan Yu Zhu. So the clock about to tick down to 0. The time will be up then on this lap. They'll complete this one, but it's 33 minutes plus a lap. So lap and a bit to go, lap and a half to go. Joel Eriksson pushing on. There's Fritz van Amersfoort, the boss of VAR, the Dutch team. There he is. He knows he's on telly. Look, gives a little hello. Hi, Fritz. Gives a little wave. And he is hoping that Joey Mawson can fend off again de Rouvler at the end of the race. And Norris having a go for 3rd place, side by side, and Guan Yu Zhu having to take to the escape road there to avoid contact, and stays ahead just about.
The stewards are not going to look lightly on that. I think they might consider that Norris was actually far enough alongside to keep the position, and Zhu just jumped out of it and actually took that 3rd place. I would
sort of had no choice, though. There'd been contact possibly otherwise, or we'd have had to stand on the brakes.
I think the stewards are probably
a second to make that decision, didn't he?
I think the stewards are really going to be looking at that, whether Norris had the position, because I think he did. As we go here side by side, Norris has that.
Guan's in front just by half a metre or so, isn't he?
Guan's in front because he didn't bother braking. If he'd actually broken at his normal spot for that corner, Norris would have had that position. I think Norris is going to be getting that position by the stewards later on.
Well, lap to go. The one way to sort it out will be to find a way through. But Lando trying to get this string of podiums back on the road here A lap to go. Shows his nose, sort of half-hearted look there down the inside on the way into turn 1. Guan Yu Zhu trying desperately to cling on to his second podium. That was an attack almost from nowhere, wasn't it, that from Lando Norris? Now, that's not really the sort of place you see drivers attacking, so the element of surprise there coming thick and fast. Whether Guan had got a slight iffy run out of the previous corner and that allowed Lando to come onto him, we didn't see, but either way, this is going to be a very close finish for third place. Ericsson's on course for the win, Arlott's on course for second place and the top point scorer of the weekend, but who's going to join them on the podium at the end of the race? We'll find out in about half a lap's time whether it's Guan Yu Zhu or Lando Norris. Incident involving cars 31 and 8. That's the two you're looking at, Zhu and Norris, from this corner, has been noted. So it's noted. They might look at it later on, but no action as yet.
I guarantee Norris was straight on the radio the moment that happened to me. The radio serves an important purpose, not just between pit and the car for information, but when you put notices over the radio, it actually also alerts the stewards in the race direction. So they're going to be looking at that, because I'm sure Norris would have been screaming over his headset.
So the race leader, Joel Eriksson, hasn't had to worry about overtaking anybody or being attacked by anybody for this race. It's been controlled. We've had 3 different winners this weekend. It was Max Gunter, then it was Callum Ilott, and now it is Joel Eriksson who takes the checkered flag for his 4th win of the season to move back into the championship lead. Callum Ilott with a great weekend, 2nd place. Guan Yu Zhu crosses the line 3rd. Lando Norris crosses the line in 4th place. Bit of a wait then. David Bettman, really good day for him. 5th place again. Max Gunter in 6th. Jake Hughes comes home 7th. Joey Mawson, 2nd best rookie in 8th. Jan Daravala in 9th place, and Nikita Mazepin in the points in 10th position, but only 0.6 of a second clear of Mick Schumacher in the end. Ferdinand Habsburg was right behind in 12th. Ralph Aron, disappointed weekend, which started badly with a collision with Pedro Piquet on the first lap yesterday in race number 1, and hasn't really ever got better, recovered since then. So Ralph in 13th place on the circuit where he won last year. He probably had bright hopes coming into this weekend off the back of a good Poe, but wasn't to be. Piquet 14th, Sato in 15th, Andres in 16th, and then Newey did finish the race, did pick up pace at the end, but he wasn't quite there. I think he may have had an issue with that car, down in 17th place. All cars finished because, as we see, a replay of Joel Eriksson taking the checkered flag in 11th place, Tadasuke Makino, the Japanese driver. So all the cars finished the race 36 seconds from 1st to 18th. The checkered flag going, though, to Joel Eriksson. A win at Silverstone, a win at Monza, a win at Poe. He's picking up wins, and when he's not picking up wins, he's usually picking up points. There's only one race, that was the retirement at Poe, where he hasn't been in the points this season, and that is the makings of a championship challenge.
And that's one of the key things about the new regulations that were brought in this year. It was one of the reasons Prema Power Team had won so many championships on the trot, and teams were kind of arguing that maybe we should do something could be maybe levelled in the regulations. Well, Ericsson has showing that Motor Park are there. They're serious challengers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's only going to help to have another strong driver, David Bettman, coming in, isn't it? That's actually going to help Joel Eriksson, who's so far been leading the team. There he is, celebrates his 19th birthday next weekend. And Joel Eriksson, star of the future, the star of today. Great win, that. And there are the results on the screen. 1.8 seconds he won by. Controlled the pace. Callum Ilott did his best, kept him honest, but 2nd place in the end. Guan Yu Zhu 3rd. Lando Norris, David Bettman, Max Gunter, Jake Hughes, Joey Mawson, Jehan Daruvala and Nikita Mazepin in the top 10. And to note that incident between Guan Yu Zhu and Lando Norris on the penultimate lap is now under investigation. That doesn't mean that there'll be a penalty, but they are certainly going to look at it after the race. But for now, it's Guan who'll be making his way onto the podium. Lando Norris will have to settle for the top step of the rookie podium. He's the top rookie. Joey Mawson in 8th place, 2nd best rookie, and Jehan Daruvala in 9th place, the 3rd best rookie, as the cars make their way off the circuit.
Joel Eriksson really only turning 19?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So you got another 3 decades of Joel Eriksson winning races, I reckon. Yeah.
And his brother Jimmy too.
Yeah. It's
another F3 expat as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. A lot of top drivers coming out of Sweden at the moment, and Joel is very much amongst them. He's an impressive character. He has that air of confidence, but it doesn't spill over into arrogance for me. It's all controlled. He knows what he's doing, and you've got to give the guy a lot of respect. It's only his second season in the championship, and he's really taking the fight to Prema. But as you say, Lee, it's very much a four-way fight for the championship at the moment, and there may be others to join. If Guan Yu can keep on putting these results together, pick up some wins later in the season, he could be in the mix as well. But certainly Gunter, Ericsson, Eilert and Norris are all in this championship fight. There's the man that leads them all, Joel Eriksson.
And let's not forget Jake Hughes, only 7th place in this race, but a podium yesterday. High-Tech could really become a force now that they seem to be solving some of the issues that they had at the start of the year. Yeah,
it's picking up regular points now, which is good to see. A big cheer for Joel Eriksson then as he gets out of the car, receives a hug, and cameras there to see the reaction from the team. And you can see how liked he is by the German team. We'll get some super slow-mos of our top 3 while we're waiting for them to make their way up to the podium here in Hungary. At the evening sunsets, Guan Yu with his second podium finish of the day, second podium finish of the season. There he is, being welcomed back. It's been strongest weekend yet for Guan Yu and his 4th podium in the championship. Callum Eilert for Prema Power Team in second place, just ahead of his teammate Guan Yu, and top point scorer this weekend with a 1st, a 2nd and a 5th across the 3 races to get himself up to that top 3 group. And Joel Eriksson, the race winner for Motor Park. 22 laps completed, and Joel Eriksson as well, I think the fastest lap of the race. Kept that gap at around 2 seconds all the way through, and never really looked like he was going to relent. And that was the reaction as he got out of the car and punched the air, looked up to the heavens. There is a man who likes winning, and he's making a habit of it. Joel Eriksson in the VW Power Motor Park car with the 2 Mercedes Power Prema cars joining him on the podium. So here it is, championship points, 183 for Eriksson, 178 for Gunter. Callum Eilert on 162, 155 for Lando Norris. Guan Yu has moved up to 5th on 68. Jan de Reuvelet going well in 6th. Jake Hughes 7th, Habsburg 8th, Newey and Schumacher rounding out the top 10. So we arrived here with the top 2 on level points, the top 3 covered by 2 points. The gap's opened up a little bit, but not by very much. And we're still none the wiser as who's actually going to win this championship when we get to the end of the season.
Fabulous job, and it's just like Po. We've seen a kind of massive young talent across the field who are all scoring a healthy number of points and actually keeping this championship level. It's something we've seen over the last few seasons, where at some point a driver gets a little bit ahead and just romps away with part of the season, but we're really actually looking very, very healthy. And it's not just Motor Park that we've mentioned. It's also Carlin with Lando Norris there as well. So, you know, this is looking like a very, very good run-in for the championship this year.
In 2 weeks' time, they'll be heading to the streets of the Norris Ring in Nuremberg. And that will be the halfway point in the season. Then the first 5 rounds will have been done. Then, second half of the season, we've got Spa at the end of July, Zandvoort in August, the Nürburgring in mid-September, Red Bull Ring and Hockenheim to round out the 2017 championship season. There's the team boss, Timo Rumpfgaard, and there with his, I don't know what it is, sailor's hat.
It's a sailor's cap, isn't it?
It's Joel Eriksson, race winner. Well, this is a new fashion. We should do this. A different hat every time you get onto the top step of the podium.
Getting the telling off from the
from Manfred Sandblicker from Hankook. It's Joel Eriksson's national anthem now. The Swedish national anthem plays out at the speakers here at the Hungaroring as the evening sun begins to descend. Hankook caps on, except for Joel Eriksson. He's had this special hat made from him. There must be a story there. I'm sure we'll find out. You probably read all about it in Autosport, I reckon. But there, the winner's trophy going to Joel Eriksson. The 4th time this season. 3 different race winners this weekend. Motor Park taking the victory with their man Joel Eriksson. The 2nd place trophy is going to go the way of Callum Eilert, he didn't win that one, but he's all smiles off the back of what's been a terrific weekend. Of course, we had to wait a little bit for our winning team to come up. And no special hats this time, but it's Motor Park, of course, the winning team. Manfred presents the trophy to them. And there is the team. Started abysmally the weekend for them with a wrong tyre pressure choice. And their 4 cars, the last 4 cars in the wet qualifying session, but they've turned it right around. And here they are at the end of the weekend at the opposite end of the field. Second place trophy to Callum Oilot. Third place trophy then goes to Guan Yuju, his second podium of the day, the Chinese driver. Very happy indeed with that, after that late battle with Lando Norris. And now then, it is on to the top step of the podium for them all to round out what's been a very interesting weekend of Formula 3 racing here in Hungary. As I say, 2 weeks' time, we'll be heading to the streets of the Norris Ring for a very, very different challenge. And it could all change again. It's going to be a very tight season in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. But for now, it's champagne time. And Joel Eriksson unleashing most of the contents of the bottle on the Motor Park engineer there. So it's all cheers, it's all smiles here at Hungaroring. And we look forward to rounds 13, 14 and 15 at the Norris Ring in a few weeks' time. Hope you've enjoyed it. Here are some highlights from the race.